Hello and welcome back, and today I'm going to give you my top tips for starting out in growing food. So I'm going to be speaking about all things from space to what you'll need, and also what you can start by growing, so some of the easiest things that you can grow when you start out growing your own food. And so I'm going to start off by speaking about space, and you can either have a sort of small to medium sized garden like I do, or you can even be in a windowsill or even in a small holding. So you can grow your food in no matter what space you've got. And today I'm going to be speaking about first the main ways that you can use your space. So how you can use your windowsill, how you can use a garden like mine, and how you can use a small holding. And especially if you're in a windowsill, don't be put off by thinking that you need a lot of space, because you definitely don't. There's many things like salads that you can grow in your windowsill, and I'll have a video up here showing you my top 5 things that you can grow in a windowsill. And you don't even have to have your own space. You can even ask, say there's a neighbour or something, or someone that you know that has some land, for example a farmer or a smallholder. You can go and speak to them and ask them nicely if you could have a corner of their field for a vegetable patch. You could sort of barter with them, so they give you some space to grow and you give them some of the vegetables that you grow there. And this is a great way of doing it. And some of the things that you can grow in are in the ground, like I do here, in raised beds like I've got over there, or in containers. Containers are great for patios or on windowsills. Especially on windowsills, I'd recommend like a trough, and you can grow things like salad in there, and I've even seen some people grow things like chickpeas in their windowsill. You can grow just about anything, especially tomatoes and peppers are good as well. And when growing in raised beds, you have the benefit, or in the ground as well also, you have the benefit that you don't have to water as much, because there's a big lump of soil there, and it's like a sponge, and there's a big sponge holding a lot of water, which means you don't have to water it as much. Whereas in pots and containers, you do have to water a bit more. But in containers you can avoid that by mulching. Mulching is when you put a layer of organic matter on top. There's also non-organic ones, which are like plastic weed membrane and things like that. But I recommend growing in raised beds or in the soil if you can, if you have the space. And especially in the ground, because raised beds dry out a bit further than in the ground, but they're both a lot better than pots. I'm starting to try and growing my potatoes in containers this year to try and see if I can get more out of them than I did in the ground. So some easy things that you can start growing are things like what I've got in this bed here. I've got some herbs, I've got lavender, rosemary, thyme, and also some parsley which has gone to flower. And also salad, which I've got lettuce here. This lettuce is almost gone beyond its best, but it should be fine. The inside will be. And I've also got some basil seedlings here that we planted from seed, and some nasturtiums. And the reason I think these are so easy to grow is because they don't take much space, and all you really have to do with them is water. You don't really have to feed many of them very much. And I recommend when you start out, you either ask an experienced gardener or ask a Facebook group that gardeners in, like things like Friends of Hugh's Nursery, Beginner Gardening Tips, Gardening Chat, that's a good Facebook group for beginners, and just look up what their requirements are. And if they require acidic soil, buy some ericaceous compost and put them in that, and you just try and alter your needs, and then you get the best harvest. Like this lavender at the start of the season, it was a tiny little plant like that, and it's grown really big now and starting to flower, as you can see. And you can also, if there's someone you know who has, say, rosemary or something, you can ask them for a cutting, which is you just take a sprig, take the lower leaves off and stick it in wet compost or damp compost, and it'll root just like we've done at the end here. And you can do this with a lot of different herbs and a lot of different plants. And if you want to start, I recommend, especially if you're on a small space like a patio, in containers or in a windowsill, start out with herbs or lettuce or salad, because they don't take much care and it's really quite easy to start with. You can also start strawberries, they're quite easy as well. But salad and herbs are my number one thing that you can grow as a beginner to start out. Another good one to grow is potatoes like I've got here. These are my main crop potatoes, which are the later varieties, where you pick them later summer or maybe early autumn. And potatoes are really good for growing in pots like I've got here. As I said earlier, I'm trialling growing them in the pots this year, and these are just 30-litre buckets filled with some compost. And as I said earlier as well, there's some mulches to stop losing moisture and things in your soil. And here I've got some grass clippings which I put on day before yesterday, and they're already starting to dry out and break down, and these will give a boost of nitrogen to your plants as well. But these are big pots for potatoes. You can also do them in smaller pots, but you just use less seed potatoes. And seed potatoes are the potatoes that have sprouts coming on them. So you could even use ones from the shop that you've got in the cupboard, and you just take some of the chits off, which are the sprouts. They're called chits. And you take some of them off, so there's only like 1 or 2 actual growth spurts there, and you plant them with the growth upwards, cover them with soil, but only just cover potato, and then you can keep putting mud on until the pot's full, and then the potatoes will keep growing. And when they either, like with these main crop ones, I'll harvest them by the end of August, but especially when they've flowered and they've died down and gone yellow, because that means the potatoes are no longer growing at all. But if you've got a variety such as Charlotte from the shop, these will be ready when the leaves start to go less yellow than they have been when they've been making most of their growth. In here I'm growing some tomatoes and peppers, and tomatoes, well, as you can see, I haven't got a very big greenhouse, and tomatoes and peppers are really good for small spaces. And this is because you can grow them in pots. I recommend an 18-inch pot as a minimum for tomatoes, which is 18-inch diameter, which is at the top. And here I've got them in some, I think they're 30-litre grow bags. They're felt grow bags which absorb the heat of the sun in the day, and they release them through the night to make sure your tomatoes fruit set. And setting fruit is when the flowers, they drop off and they turn into tomatoes, so that's when your fruit have set, and that means that they've been pollinated and that the fruit are going to grow into big tomatoes. And if you want to see a good video about growing tomatoes for the first time, click up here. Also, if you haven't already, please go down below, hit the subscribe button as well as the little bell icon, and click all on the notifications to make sure you know next time I upload a video. And another great thing to grow as a beginner, if you've got a garden like mine, is perennials. So that could be bush and shrubs like raspberries and currants, or things like this, which is a pear tree. And these fruit trees, especially this pear tree, can be quite temperamental, because it only started fruiting and actually setting good pears like last year, which means it's about 10-15 years into its life and it's only just making fruit. But when they do start making fruit, they're really prolific croppers, especially our apple trees. We've got some cooking apple trees over there which make lovely crumbles in autumn and early autumn and late summer. And this hasn't got a huge amount of fruit this year, I don't think, but we've got another one there next to our greenhouse which has got its first ever fruit on it, and that one's about 10 years old as well. But it got attacked badly by canker when it was younger, and canker is a horrible disease which attacks apple trees in damp conditions. So like here in Wales where we got a lot of rain, unlike today, but it will attack it, and it's like red spores on the fruit, and it makes it all horrible, and the wood all dies and the leaves drop off, and it's not very nice. But yeah, perennials are really good. I've also got a mini food forest that I'm starting to grow over there, which hopefully will be really good when it's established. This is the first year of having it. I've got 5 blackcurrants there, and I'm hoping to get some more perennials along the base of them in the future, hopefully by the end of this year. Now that you've established what you want to grow in your garden or in your pot, what you can do is you can go and get the resources that you need. So things that you will need: if you're growing in pots, you'll need a growing medium, so you can go compost. There's another good one in the UK which is John Innes, which is like a loam based compost, which is really good for pots. And another thing that you'll need is seeds, or the plant that you want. So you can get these from garden centres, and I recommend supporting your local garden centre, because then you're paying into the local economy, and by getting plants then, you should be planting them into your pots or into the ground wherever you're going to get them. And some optional things you may need. A thing that can be useful is a wheelbarrow, forks or a spade, or you can get both if you'd like, and also a compost bin. And I've got a really good series about composting for the first time up here, which is called Composting Broken Down, where I show you everything from start to finish of growing your own compost, or making your own compost, sorry. And I recommend when you get compost, if you're going to grow in a pot, things like blueberries especially, like a slightly acidic soil. So buy something called ericaceous compost, which is, an acidic soil or acidic compost, and it works well for things like blueberries. Black currants could do with a bit mixed into their grow medium as well, because they like acidic soil as well. And another good thing that you might need is your hands. And I believe that your hands are the biggest and best tool in your garden, because you can dig with them, you can weed with them, and you can also harvest the food with your hands. And this is why I think you should not worry about having too many tools like forks and spades and things. And your hands can do just about the same things. They just make it easier and a bit more efficient. And the one tool I will say that you will need if you've got things like perennials are a good pair of secateurs, which I will link down below, so make sure you go and check that link out. And good secateurs are a must, because you can't cut things with your hands. Unless you've got gadget hands, you can't cut woody shrubs with your hands. But you can pick other things, like you can pull them out the ground and shake the mud off for like lettuce and things. But a good pair of secateurs will do you well. I hope you enjoyed watching this video, and I hope you learned something about starting to grow your own food for the first time. And I'm really excited to see your progress. So make sure you message me over on Instagram or Facebook with any pictures if you've started growing your own food. Please, if you're new here also, as I said earlier, make sure you subscribe to show your support to the channel, as this will tell YouTube that people are enjoying my videos, and it will promote my videos a bit more to more people, and that will in turn spread the joy of gardening. Thank you for watching. I'll see you next time.